Thank you very much, SBC Gaming, for giving AIGF the opportunity to be part of this event. I will just, as part of the keynote address on online skill gaming, basically run you through a few slides that we have managed to put together, which actually encompasses the entire online skill gaming industry, what we are today compared to how we started, and what AIGF is basically doing in terms of regulation, etc., in the online skill gaming industry. So let me start. So it is one of the fastest growing sunrise sectors in India. And it has, really proven itself during the pandemic. It's beaten the economic downtrend, direct beneficiary of the Honorable PM's Digital India initiative. It also contributes a humongous amount of almost to the tune of 980 crores to the exchequer in 2019 as with respect to GST. It has also kind of helped the nation building by a lot of direct and indirect job creation, and it continues to do so even further in all these years. Started about 10 years back. The actual momentum, I would say, is in the last 2.5 to 3 years. The various categories which basically online skill gaming falls into are namely esports, fantasy sports, mind sport, like poker, rummy, casual games. There are hyper casual games. The industry size is almost 6,500 crores. The industry grew by 30% over the last year. The number of gamers in India almost to the tune of 360 million, growing to almost 400 million. Various venture capital deals. Obviously, this market has been looked at by a lot of investors overseas, and the investment has been to the tune of almost 350 million USD in the last 3 years. There are a lot of growth drivers. A lot of population in India actually under the age of 45 is really taking up online skill gaming in a very big way. There are also 560 million internet users, and the proliferation of internet in India has been a big boon for this industry. And of course now India normally when it comes to game developers and even looking at the kind of entrepreneurs, we've seen that the gaming developers have really gone up multifold in the last 2-3 years. So it's almost to the tune of 300 currently. Esports and online gaming, of course, have really grown in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. A lot of proliferation of internet and smartphone, which have helped the masses in those tier 2 and tier 3 cities to showcase their skills. And the youngsters basically anywhere between the age of 19 to 25 have really excelled in esport, and they've been able to showcase their skills globally. What we would also like to say here is skill gaming is just not fantasy sports. They also include, rummy, poker, bridge, chess, quiz, carom, esports, etc. So, I mean, the growth rate was obviously, comprised of only 30% of the total skill gaming sector that is seeing a turnover of 1 billion by current estimates. Can you have? Okay. So a lot of interest has been shown in the past, which I've already mentioned. To name a few: Tiger Global, Rain Capital, Clever, Sequoia, etc. They've been showing keen interest in all the various formats, and there's been significant investment from their side. These things have been covered. A recent report by FICCI and EY actually predicts the rise of the online gamer community from 365 million in 2019 to almost to 440 million by 2022. And of course, the rising smartphone penetration with an influx of 100 million devices and continued conversion of connections to 5G actually going forward will help this online gaming segment immensely. There is also a perspective in terms of revenue where gaming is is supposed to kind of substantially contribute to the government's indirect tax collection. It's estimated to be approximately 9.8 billion in 2019, may swell to 28.6 billion by 2022. Another major promotional thrust in nationwide popularity of esports and online gaming will emerge from soaring numbers of internet users in India. According to a recent Google KPMG report, the user base will grow to 735 million by 2021. And this will include 536 million users of Indian language internet users, which basically regional growth has really fueled this marketplace immensely. So we see a huge potential for local content driven by the surge number of Indian language speaking internet users. The localized games will further enhance the value and business appeal of the online gaming industry. This has always been a debate, determination of games of skill and chance, where there have been numerous notes and what has been passed on in terms of acts, where very clearly it is mentioned that games of skill are those games where success predominantly depends on the player's skill as opposed to chance. So the courts in India also use the dominant factor test to assess whether a game is based on skill or chance. If a skill dominates the elements of chance in a game more than 50%, it is considered as a game of skill, and vice versa. So with all of this also, I mean, today being available to the masses to actually look at it, but I guess this test has only been applied very, very subjectively in India. They've not used a lot of reports, statistics, tools, which have actually clearly mentioned how this percentage needs to be calculated. So that's been the bane currently, which we are actually trying to address as part of AIGF. So because of this, this has led to a certain degree of confusion among gaming companies as the legal status of games keeps on changing from state to state. So, we as AIGF have been kind of always trying to, create this, kind of clear this ambiguity amongst all the government officials, so that they clearly see what are the games of chance and what are the games of skill. So the Supreme Court has very clearly held a distinction between the two types of games, games of chance or gambling games and a game of skill. It clearly laid down that a competition where success does not depend to a substantial degree upon the exercise of skill is a game of chance or a game of gambling nature. So let us move on to the status of the various key online skill games in India. So esports or electronic sports is a competitive game in an organized format, an event or a league organized by a third party with a specific goal, like winning a tournament or prize money, with a clear distinction between players and teams who are competing against each other for a chance to reach that goal. Fantasy sports, well, they have been increasingly getting recognition as game of skill. Various courts have declared fantasy sports as game of skill. And there has been recognition also from NITI Aayog very recently, where there's been a lot of traction related to fantasy sport. The Supreme Court also has dismissed certain challenges made to these judgments, which further brings credibility to the status of fantasy sports as a game of skill. Although as gambling continues to remain state subject, the status of fantasy sports as a game of skill remains inconclusive in some states that are yet to classify it as such. Poker, the status of poker as a game of skill varies from state to state. West Bengal and Nagaland explicitly classify poker as a game of skill in their gambling legislation. Various other courts have also identified that poker includes elements, such as bluffing, memorizing cards, calculating the opponent's move, and patience to drop or hold cards, which make it a game of skill. While the Supreme Court is yet to discuss poker, several countries worldwide have used empirical data and statistical analysis to determine that poker is a game predominantly based on skill. Rummy. The status of Rummy as a game of skill is fairly settled in India. Nagaland and West Bengal explicitly mention Rummy as a game of skill under the gambling legislation. The Supreme Court, along with several other high courts, have identified that Rummy requires skills such as memorizing cards, strategy, analyzing the fall of cards, and building up a Rummy, etc. A brief slide on the skill gaming stakeholders. So typically, these games involve a registration fee and a prize money component. Digital gamers play these platforms either P2P or P2S, and gaming platforms normally charge a commission ranging between 5 to 20%, depending on the game format, as platform fees, which is their revenue. All are Indian registered companies. They pay direct and indirect taxes as per Indian taxation laws, offer their services only in India. Well, they also exclude states that do not have permanent or have kind of, passed an ordinance. And payments happen through various payment gateways and aggregators in Indian rupees. A brief about AIGF. We are a not-for-profit society based in Mumbai. We started operation in 2016 June by actually the prominent industry stakeholders, namely SL Group, the Delta Group, and Sugal and Damani. So we have more than 40 members across all online skill gaming categories, completely self-regulated industry body like IBF and ASCI, working at bringing recognition to the online skill gaming industry, sunrise sector. We liaise with various state and central ministries and departments for sharing knowledge about the industry, including the 21st Law Commission of India, MEITY, MSY, CVIC, to highlight the economic benefits in the sector. We also possess experience and know of international best practice in online gaming across jurisdictions and relationship with regulators. We have a very good expert committee which actually comprises of stalwarts in the space, which help us in actually putting together the best practice in online gaming. We have also put across our own skill gaming charter. This was initially prepared by Nishit Desai and vetted by the AIGF advisory panel. Like I mentioned, the advisory panel includes Justice Vikramaditya Sen, former Supreme Court judge and former Karnataka High Court judge, Professor Deepak Dayanidhi from IIM Kozhikode, Ms. Julan Goswami, Indian women cricketer, Professor Yamini Agrawal, a finance expert, etc. So self-regulation is anyway, key for this industry, because what we've kind of realized is without self-regulation, the industry cannot possibly, really reach, what they really want to achieve if they don't have self-regulation. We've taken a number of initiatives in terms of the charter, and we kind of push all our members to adhere to this charter. This charter incorporates general principles on legality, transparency, responsible gaming, financial integrity, intellectual property, and grievance redressal. So while the industry looks for regulatory certainty around games, such initiatives to self-regulate really gain importance. So we also did notice that there are a lot of advertisements and a lot of other issues that perennially affect the online gaming industry. So the current rules and regulations that are there are not really sufficient to deal with these issues. So that's one of the very reasons why we felt that self-regulation is very important, and it ensures that the industry is able to really adapt to the growing technical innovations without facing onerous and rigid conditions under laws. This we have already covered, the skill game charter. So mind sport competence, all of us know India basically really excel in this field of e-sport, and e-sport will be a medal sport in the Asian Games 2022. We also had a recent winner. There is a widespread belief that 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris will include demonstration e-sport events. And the organizers have already announced virtual and connected events that will run prior to and alongside the physical ones as a run-up to the Olympics. Support from ministries to online skill gaming. The Union Education Ministry's decision to support the students in the field of online gaming is a step towards building a self-reliant, Atmanirbhar and digitally empowered India. This will give a boost and interest to the young talents who are passionate about game development and online gaming. So, Skyfall, the Royal Combat, an online and offline action survival game that emerged as one of the top made in India apps in the gaming category in the recent Atmanirbhar Bharat App Innovation Challenge launched by the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. We also kind of, any sector we look at, there are going to be, a lot of challenges that keeps, attacking a sunrise sector. So some of the challenges that we see very clearly here is gaming is a state subject, and so basically the decisions entirely, actually rest with the state. The state need to be really convinced about this particular form of online skill gaming. These businesses are entirely digital. There's a lot of confusion that is there between games of skill and gambling, because many a time the games of skill are all kind of, put together with the game of chance and gambling. So different interpretations of online games of skill creates a lot of confusion. Investors and gaming platforms are not able to build, scale, and expand because many of them, have come in looking at what is presented to them by the operators with a particular state, but looking at the various ordinances that have just been passed in the recent past, actually, does not really give the investors, a lot of comfort. Of course, taxation issues. This is something that the industry is being, is kind of looking at constantly, trying to, kind of position itself different from gambling, which is like casino. Also look at game of chance like lottery, where basically within the GST realm, actually, they are all at 28%. So the model for skill game has been a classification at the rate of 18%, which is what we've been trying to really look at. And the judgment is currently under stay by the Supreme Court, and hence this issue is to be settled, yet to be settled conclusively. So these tax laws confusion which exists between games of skill and games of chance also create a lot of issues now and then, which one has to kind of look at. So many operators have to kind of come together and then put together a representation, and AIGF basically helps the entire industry, being an industry body, represent all these cases. So there is a need for a universal regulatory framework. So there is a logical need for a central framework to regulate online gaming. Essentially, gaming is a state subject aided by internet and devices. So it will be tough to regulate a sport having completely digital characteristics by physical geography. So we also feel that the regulation should be seamless and not specific to norms of each and every state, because each state has different norms for online games, permitting or restricting them accordingly. Therefore, such a varied regulatory spectrum will impact gaming unless there is a central framework. While most of the esports are played on gaming consoles and PCs, esports in India is predominantly played on mobile platforms. The oversight architecture needs to factor in these nuances because the paradigm for identifying and selecting the professional players would be different from the global templates. So, India is definitely, something different when it comes to many industries, and esport is also no exception here. So that is why we feel that there is a need for a regulatory framework. So our appeal has been to the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology to provide a uniformly acceptable and global integrated framework of rules to incentivize the growth of online skill gaming and esports segment. And we've also kind of pushed them to kind of recognize and endorse the skill game charter, which has been kind of put across by AIGF. So to ensure a uniform industry self-regulation standard for all online skill gaming platforms and stakeholders. So this is in brief, what we have as a presentation on the online skill gaming industry. Though this industry, if you look at the numbers, if you look at fantasy, rummy, and poker, and also look at the casual games where basically there are in-app advertisement, etc. I think it is really there in terms of numbers. We're looking at almost close to 7,500 crores in this online skill gaming industry. So as far as the challenges that we briefly covered as part of this presentation, AIGF continues to kind of make the representations in various courts. We intervene where we feel that there is a need to actually help the industry, where basically there are a lot of PILs that typically, are kind of inserted without understanding the difference between skill games and a game of chance. So AIGF basically is on top of all of those things, and this is now, happening all across India. Though in the south, we've kind of managed to lose 3 big states, namely Telangana, Andhra, and Tamil Nadu very recently. So what we plan to do is basically we are appealing in each and every one of those states and trying to kind of very clearly educate internally that these are games of skill and they should not be combined with the games of chance. In some cases, I think there has been, also relation to, e-sport and also games of skill like chess, where all of them have been classified saying that, they're all illegal and an ordinance has been passed, including them. So our endeavor has been to actually help this industry in the best way possible. And we are actually trying to create, a kind of an environment and an ecosystem for the entire industry and the investors fraternity to actually have a very good time in India. And of course, I mean, all said and done, if there is regulation, there is self-regulation, and what we are actually aiming to endeavor, if all of those fall in place, then I think including the tax and including the gaming community, the gamers and the developers, all of them would flourish, and we would be a force to reckon with. So this is what I really wanted to convey as part of a keynote on the online skill gaming industry. Thank you very much.